Heard you want to go see a volcano. Come on, I'll show you how.
However you call it, the safest sport. Cause we all know if you ain't involved then you're falling short. Ask anybody that know me, I put my all into this life. Gloves off, no hose bar, and I'm all in for the night. I don't speak about it, I be about it. I can realign the stars of whatever constellation you fear.
Okay, let's set you up right here. Okay, before we begin, if you haven't had the chance yet, do check out the volcano vlog on my channel. It's a ton of fun. It goes through really firsthand what we experienced climbing Acatenango and going through all the trials and tribulations of that hike. This trip was absolutely insanity. It was the craziest trip I've ever been on. It is so much fun. It is very difficult. Don't get me wrong, but it is one of the coolest experiences you can ever have in your life, seeing just a live volcano explode 500 meters away from you. So just want to say that before we begin, but let's hop into things. Okay, so this video is going to be divided into 4 main parts. The first part is going to be the context of this. What is it? Where is it? Why should you do it? And all that good stuff. Second part is going to be just main logistics, how you should be preparing for it, what you need to know about getting there and going places, packing. Third part is going to be all about the actual hike. So what you need to know before going in, what the hike is going to be like, how long is it, how the tour guides are going to prepare you and things like that. And the fourth part is going to be any extra logistical things like budgeting or Ubering or any extra thoughts that I have along the way. Where is this hike? This hike, Acatenango, is in Guatemala, near a city called Antigua, which is about 1 hour to 2 hour drives away from Guatemala City. Guatemala is a country in Central America, known for its rainforests, its massive amount of volcanoes, of course, ancient Mayan sites. So it's very culturally diverse, lots of really cool landscapes and nature and that kind of thing. Let's talk about what this hike actually is. We're talking very challenging overnight trek to the summit of Acatenango, which is a dormant volcano, but you will be 4,000 meters above sea level, and you're essentially overlooking this active volcano called Fuego, and that's the main draw of this hike. Seeing that active volcano, seeing Fuego explode right in front of you. It's very hard, it's very fun, but hard. Okay, so why should you go? You really want to do this for 3 main reasons. First, you want to see an active volcano explode, erupt with lava right in front of you. Again, this is the main reason why I went. It was breathtaking. I can't stress enough how much the image of that volcano exploding is ingrained into my brain since that event. Second main reason is you really like a challenging hike that goes through interesting landscaping and nature and that sort of thing. So on this hike, you're actually going to be able to go through 4 different types of ecosystems, all the while being in a really cool group of people, because all these people that are doing the hike with you on this tour are people from around the world who are traveling here just to see this hike. You're also going to be able to do stargazing at night because it's so clear and there is so little light pollution. Third main reason you want to go, and this is kind of cheating because it lumps everything else together, but it really is everything else that is so amazing about Guatemala and the trip that you would get to experience. The food, the people, and the areas around the hike, like Lake Atitlan or Antigua, are just so beautiful. They could be trips in and of themselves. All right, so now that we established where this hike is, what this hike is, and why you should definitely go on this hike because it's so amazing, let's talk about the nitty-gritty of
the logistics alone.
Logistics?
First question is, when should you go? So this is why I talked about Guatemala being the land of eternal spring earlier, is because on one hand, it means very beautiful, very lush scenery, but on the other hand, it means the constant possibility of rain. Guatemala technically does have a dry season, which is when I recommend to go, but even during the dry season, it can technically rain at any time. So my friends and I went in January, which is basically the very middle of the dry season, because we wanted to see nothing to do with rain. But actually, on the day of our hike, we were met with rain. So you can see that it's really random, it can be very sporadic, and it can really happen at any time. Second question is, how long should you go for? So this really depends on how long you can go for, but for context, I went for 6 days, and I think that that is the bare minimum that you need to spend time in Guatemala and do this hike. Main reason for that is two things. One, you probably need to acclimate to the altitude, probably about 1 to 2 days before the actual hike. And then the second reason is you just want time to do everything else that I talked about before and that I'll get into later. On the acclimation piece, if you aren't used to a 3,000 meter above sea level altitude, then I would highly recommend coming at least 2 days before your hike in order to acclimatize. When my friends and I went, we just had 2 days and we all suffered from altitude sickness. So big major headaches, someone had nausea, someone had diarrhea, although I think that was separate. But yes, do spend some time to acclimate. For the hike, you could also technically just finish it and then go home. But again, I would really recommend seeing other areas around the hike. Lake Atitlan, you could spend 2 days. Antigua, you could spend 2 days, although that's where you would probably acclimate. But there's so many other areas, even Guatemala City, that you could spend some time in and really explore. Lake Atitlan especially is very, very beautiful. It's this huge lake, so many little towns scattered around it. We only got to see one, but it was still so beautiful. And there's some really, really nice hostels to choose from around the lake. That is a great segue into question 3, which is where should you actually stay? So my friends and I were traveling together, so it was relatively easy to get a private room inside of a hostel. But if you're traveling solo or with just like one friend, then I would still recommend traveling in a hostel, but you have to be ready to live that hostel life where you're sharing a dorm room with other people you don't know. In general, I've had great experiences in hostels. I really like them, so I would still recommend you try them out, see if it's for you. If it's not, the next trip, just try something else. In hostels, there are so many different activities that you can try, many of which are free, and if you're traveling solo, it's really a great way to meet other travelers and get to know them, make friends, and do activities with them that you would otherwise have to do alone, or not. I mean, honestly, you could just stay in hostels for economic reasons, and then still do all your activities solo. I stayed in Salina in Antigua for 2 nights, and then did the overnight hike, and then we took an Uber to Lake Atitlan and spent 2 nights in a hostel there. The hostel was called Free Cerveza, which is not only really beautiful and super relaxed, but it also had some really great food, and between the hours of 5 and 7 p.m. served, as the name suggests, free beer, unlimited. That was a lot of fun, super great to kind of meet people, socialize, but also just have a few drinks. It also had some great activities. So you could paddleboard for free, you could kayak for free. There was a pier for you to relax in. There were so many different areas to just sit down, read a book, meet people if you want to, play board games, do all that kind of thing. Okay, anyways, that's where we stayed. It was really great, so we would recommend, but there are so many other hostels that we found in our research that I'm gonna link below in the description, because based on the reviews and based on threads that we've seen, they are also just as amazing and offer different things that Free Cerveza might not offer. So do check them out and get a full list of the different hostels that you should check out. Tour groups. If you've already done some research on this, you've probably seen that there are so many tour groups to choose from, because it is the only legal way to climb Acatenango, and to be honest, probably the only way you should, because it's safer and they know what they're doing, and it's just a lot easier logistically to do it.
Logistics?
I've heard great things about most of the tour groups that are offering hikes to Acatenango. They're all mostly run by locals, which is amazing, and they all have years of experience climbing the actual volcano and showing people the different sites and where to go. I've also linked some of the top groups that we found in our research down in the description. They all mostly offer the same things. There's some slight variations, but overall you'll get a similar experience, and they're all great. We ended up choosing V Hiking, and we had a fantastic experience with them. They pick you up from your hostel, take you to a little town where you do some prep, have a nice full breakfast with coffee, drop off anything that you don't want to take up the hike because you get to pick it up on the way back. And then they have rental service where you get to rent any equipment that you don't have. So things like headlamps or walking sticks. Definitely 100, 200, 300% take the walking sticks. We almost didn't take them. We're lucky we did because someone in our group suggested we did. But yes, do take the walking sticks. It's a very, very treacherous hike. They will drive you to the trailhead of the actual hike, and then that's really where you begin your journey up Acatenango with the tour guides, with everything you've rented, and that's when you begin. Okay, the actual hike, let's talk about it. The hike has multiple stops, which is great. It is very steep and challenging, especially because the soil essentially that you're walking on is volcanic soil, and you will need to bring a lot of water to get yourself up, stay hydrated, and just be ready to get up to the base camp. Once you get up to base camp, which takes about probably 4 to 5 to 6 hours depending on your fitness level, you'll rest there for lunch, get rest in general, because if you choose to, you can actually then go on an optional hike afterwards where you get to hike down about 30 minutes and then up an hour to the Fuego Ridge, which is literally about 500 meters away from Fuego crater that erupts every 40 minutes. But then it gets dark, it gets extremely windy, it gets extremely cold, so you really want to make the trek back to camp in complete darkness. Sorry, you don't want to do that, you have to do that. That is necessary. So please, 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 if you want to do the optional hike, get headlamps. If you don't have a headlamp, rent one at that place where they drop you off and you can rent equipment, because it is very helpful. This couple from San Francisco saved my life, basically by letting me borrow their headlamp on the way back to base camp from Fuego Ridge. And that was extremely helpful. I'm forever in their debt, so shout out to them. You guys are amazing. Do I recommend doing the optional hike to Fuego Ridge? Yes, absolutely. It is so worth it. Do it. Just keep in mind that it is grueling. It is not for the faint of heart. It is extremely tiring. And by the end of it, you really would have hiked already 8, 9, maybe 10 hours in that day alone. So be wary. Also, personal anecdote and full transparency, but for me, the hike down Fuego Ridge and back up to base camp was probably the hardest hiking moment in my life.
This has been the grindiest grind of a hike any of us have ever done.
Like, ever.
I think this is the most grueling hike I've ever done in my life.
So, yeah, anyways, do it. It's great. Just stay safe and be ready to want to cry. Be ready to cry. After you do the optional hike, you'll have dinner and you'll basically chill at base camp and watch Mount Fuego erupt in the distance, which is really, really cool, by the way, because it's nighttime and now you can really see the lava glow in the distance, and it's glowing this deep, bright red, which is so cool because you see the lava, you know it's lava and it's right there. Anyways, I recommend you sit by a fire, relax, stay warm because it's still really cold, but enjoy the volcano erupting behind you. Go to bed early though, because at 3 a.m., and this might be hard because when you're trying to sleep, you're going to constantly be hearing volcanic eruptions, and you also might be suffering from altitude sickness like we got zero sleep. But, okay, the next part that I'm gonna talk about isn't something that I got to experience firsthand because unfortunately, the weather wasn't cooperating with us, so we didn't get to do this. So, you're supposed to be waking up at 3 a.m. And hike to the peak of Acatenango to be even higher up and see essentially a 360-degree view of everything around you, including the valley, including sunrise, of course, and Fuego, which is probably also erupting during sunrise, which is crazy. I'm gonna be showing you some footage from some other hikers on YouTube that have actually done this peak and the summit. So their footage is gonna be playing right here, but this is supposed to be so beautiful and gets you completely above the tree line, which is amazing. But yeah, we didn't get to do that, so a little disappointed, but that's okay. We were already completely knackered up. In the morning, I felt better, had breakfast, and you essentially just say goodbye to Fuego and start your descent down back to essentially where you began your hike at the trailhead. It was really, really fast getting down. I think we finished it in under 2 hours or something crazy. Okay, so we got through the main logistics. We got through the main hike events and what goes on during the hike. Finally, let's talk about some extra details and logistics and just random thoughts that I had.
Random. Very random.
Getting from place to place. Take Uber. It is very inexpensive. It is very convenient, and it's a lot safer than taxis because you can track the route you're going. Although a lot of times the driver won't go the route they're supposed to go because Google Maps isn't always accurate. But anyways, take the Ubers. It's cheap. You can use your credit card, and it's just simpler overall than taxis. That's what we use to get from the airport to Antigua, and it's what we use to get from Lake Atitlan back to the airport. From the hike prep spot that we were at after the hike, we took a private shuttle, I believe, from V-hiking to Lake Atitlan, which in hindsight, I think it was just some random guy they hired. We overpaid him extensively, but that's okay because he was prepped and ready to go, which was nice. But yeah, you probably could also just call an Uber from there. Safety. Antigua is very safe. Sometimes it felt safer than I feel back home. You know, no exaggeration. It is such a beautiful town. It is kept so clean, and it has such amazing local vibes. I really loved Antigua. Okay, there is no segue into packing, but that is okay. There's been enough unnecessary segues in this video. I'm not gonna list everything that you need because it's packing. You guys have packed before, but I'm just gonna list things that might be different than your regular trip or might think you need for this trip. So first of all, warm clothes, layers. The hike gets very cold, like I said before. The actual rest of your trip that's not the hike, it's probably gonna be pretty warm, hovering around 20, lows of 15, highs of 25, that sort of thing. Shorts, t-shirt is fine. However, on the hike, you will experience -5 with wind on the volcano. And it does get really, really cold. So bring gloves, bring toques, bring anything that you might need. And layering is very important because at the bottom of the hike, it's gonna be relatively warm, but once you get to the top, it'll of course be way colder. What that means is base layers and potentially a rain jacket. Again, eternal spring, guys. It's gonna be raining, maybe, possibly. Anything can happen, I don't know. Actual hiking shoes. You probably want to do and bring and wear some actual hiking shoes. It made the hike a lot easier for me. Put in that investment so that you can do this hike and any other future hike that you wanna do. I saw people do it in sneakers and they made it up and they made it down, so you can do it. It's just not as enjoyable, probably. And cash. So you will need cash because a lot of the times the street food or the hostels or random things like taxis, you'll need to pay in cash because they won't take credit. That's just something that you need to bring. We budgeted about 50 Canadian dollars per person for the entire trip because we knew that most things you can pay in credit. Again, you still need cash for a lot of the trip. So we expected to pay most things with credit. And the biggest thing was probably accommodations and food. So accommodations, a lot of it was prepaid, and food at restaurants and things like that, most places do take credit. Woohoo! Okay, oh my God. That was a lot of info. That was a lot, but I think I covered everything that I want to cover. If I missed anything, just comment, ask, and I'll try to answer anything that does come up. Thanks for sticking around this far. If you're still here, I would just say do it. Just do it. Just do the hike, do this trip, say yes. Thank you so much for watching. If you found this video helpful, do leave a like, leave a comment with any questions that you have. Let me know how it went. I really hope that you got to see lava erupt from you 500 meters away. If you have the time, again, check out the vlog that I made before. It was so much fun, and I really hope you enjoy it. See you in the next one. Adios.